everyone, welcome back to our next video in our THC Launchpad series. Today we are going to be looking at your logo. Your logo is, one of the key elements of your brand. We like to say it is the face of your brand. And so it's really important to make a really good investment in your logo. And so, we talked about in a previous video how important the investment in your brand is. That starts with your logo. And so let's kind of talk through what you should be thinking about as you're coming up with your logo. I have a few key tips that I think are pretty standard. Number one, you don't want your logo to look like every other logo. You don't want to fall into the cliches and the stereotypes, whether it's going back to legacy cannabis culture, a green leaf, a green cross, like it's everywhere. It's not going to stand out. You want your logo to be distinct. And so, really try to think about coming up with a logo that's going to represent what's unique about your brand. Another really important thing about your logo development is you want it to stand out, but you also want it to have like a simple elegance. That's the best way I can explain it. You don't want it to be too complicated. I've seen some pretty cool, very elaborate, detailed illustration logos. They're nice and sometimes they can be really cool, but they aren't super functional because you can't shrink it down. If you make it too small, you lose all the detail. So you have to imagine like where your logo is going to be used in a lot of different places. It's going to be, it could be on a big sign. It could be on a billboard, it could be on a small package, and everything in between. And so having something that's versatile, that can scale up and down, that's going to be distinct and identifiable, whatever size you're using it at. And so with that in mind, like you're going to need to work with a professional. I've seen a lot of sorry looking logos and I feel bad when I see them because I know one of two things happened. One, they didn't want to spend money on a logo, or two, they relied on someone in their family or themselves to design the logo, and maybe one and two together. But they've launched their brand, their logo's out there, and they feel like they're stuck with it. And so that's why before you launch, it's really important to put some care into your brand, to invest in it. This is one of those areas that investment is really key because, again, it is so important. It is the face of your brand. It is going to be seen, almost every point of interaction with your audience. They're going to be looking at your logo. And so I'm going to relay this actually happened, this conversation I had. Someone called up, they're like, oh, I'm opening up a dispensary. We're in a new state. We're coming online. The state is launching in a few months. So I was like, great. We're getting to it early, or, at least early enough to do a good job with it. And I gave her a price, and I mean, our price for our logos start at $500. There's no secret to it. It could be more depending on how much development you want to go into it, or maybe you need a highly versatile logo that's going to have many different, a full logo, a small. There could be more, but the baseline is starting at 500. And if you want a full branding, obviously it's going to be more than just the logo. But if you know anything about market, that's a very reasonable price for a logo. And she's like, oh my God, why is it so expensive? I go online, I see I can get a logo for $50 or $25. I'm like, yeah, but then you're going to have a $25 logo. Like of all the things that you could be trying to cut corners on, why would you cut corners on your logo? I mean, like if anything, you should be spending more than $500. Like if you're talking to the biggest brands in the world, they're spending tens of thousands of dollars on their logo, if not more. And it may just be like, oh, we've had this logo for hundreds of years, and every few years we just refresh it. Like, so it's just a little bit different. And they're spending tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars on their logo because it is so important. And I know that we're not talking about that types of money in this industry, but you need to invest in your logo because it is so important. And if you don't, what does that say about your brand? If you're like, oh yeah, I like it, it's cool, but that it's not really that cool. That like, oh, it's cool because I don't have to spend a lot of money. If you're making your decision with that mindset, why are you in this business? This is, again, your brand and your logo this is where you need to start with your investment, because it is central to the success of your company. It says so much about who you are as a company. And if you're trying to cut corners with your logo, your audience is going to know, your potential customers are going to know, and they're going to go elsewhere. And so just remember that as you're coming up with your logo. The good news is if you cut corners the first time, it is not too late. Because again, when we're talking about $500 to $1,000 for a logo, it's going to be a really good logo too. That's worth it. That's not a lot in the grand scheme of things. So, make the investment, put the time into it. It's not just about, spending some money on it, but you also want to make sure you're going through a development process. Let me very quickly walk through how we handle it. Again, whether you're working with someone else or working with us, you can know what to expect and what goes into making a good logo. Our full development logo process starts with, we ask you a bunch of questions. We ask you about your audience, your brand, what your values are, what your favorite colors are, what colors you don't like, all these things. So we have an idea of what you are and what you want your logo to represent. And then we will give you 4 options, 4 different logos. They're all going to be kind of related, but each one is its own thing. And then you're going to look at those 4 and you're going to, oh, I like this one, or I like this one, but I like what you did here. Can we combine that? And yes, we can take what you like about each of the logos, put it together, and then here is a more finished version of the logo. And then you're going to be like, oh yeah, this is getting close. And then we'll, whatever other feedback, and then we refine it until we get to the point where you don't just like your logo, you love it, and you can't imagine your logo any other way, because we took the time and you spent the money to make sure that you love the logo. Because if you don't love the logo, your customer is not going to love the logo. Now, if you do love the logo, that doesn't mean your customers were, and that's your customers will. And so that's where working with a professional comes into play, because we can help steer you away from those impulses that may be taking you in the wrong direction, and make sure that you have a professional, versatile, useful, effective logo. So that is why it's important, and that is the process that you should be thinking about as you go through developing your logo. If you have any questions about this, if you're curious about our logo packages or what that would entail, feel free to reach out. You can find our contact information on our website. You can contact me directly. I'm happy to have that conversation. But I hope whatever you do, make sure that you take the time and make the investment in creating a good logo for your brand. Thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.